So, good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à la table ronde sur les opportunités d'affaires avec la défense américaine. My name is Caroline Davoine. I'm the director of the Quebec Government Office in Houston. The Quebec government has a global network of 33 offices, and 9 of these offices are located in the United States. The Houston office covers 4 states in South Central US, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Today, we are gathered to exchange on new technology opportunities within the US defense sector. Quebec's longstanding expertise in new technologies date as far back as 1993, when the famous Joshua Benjo founded MILA, the Research Institute in Artificial Intelligence. Seeing the various innovations coming from this sector, the Quebec government implemented one of the most generous tax cut programs in Canada, targeted at companies who are willing to invest in R&D to develop new technologies. In the last decade, we observed the rise of clusters in Quebec, including the defense sector. In 2017, Aéro Montréal and the Quebec government created SD Quebec, a collaborative platform for defense and national security. Around 450 Quebec-based companies are now active in the defense field. One collaboration success I would like to highlight is the tactical passive exoskeleton used by the US Department of Defense in 2014. It was created by Mawashi from Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu in Quebec. On a final note, I'm sure that this roundtable will better equip us with pertinent information on how we can further collaborate with our US counterparts. Before our moderator takes over, please note that everyone will be kept on mute for the duration of the roundtable. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, but you can also send your questions via the Q&A room. We still have a few availabilities for private meetings with the Army Applications Laboratory. If you haven't scheduled yours, please reach out to Audrey. You will find our email address in the meeting chat. Finally, I would like to introduce you to Sylvain Lefrançois, who will act as today's moderator. Sylvain Lefrançois is currently the Director of Defense and Security at Aéro Montréal. With more than 35 years of experience in the defense sector, Sylvain structures targeted projects and initiatives to mobilize stakeholders and provides the necessary tools for companies to develop their business in defense. Thank you, Sylvain, for accepting our invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you very much for inviting me. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Welcome, everyone, to this roundtable on the U.S. defense sector, focused primarily on the innovation aspect. Today, we have 2 panelists that will be participating, 2 panelists from US organizations deeply involved in the innovation aspect of defense. First, what I would like to do before I introduce the 2 panelists, just a reminder, as Caroline mentioned, that there's going to be a question and answer period at the end of the roundtable. So I invite you to use the Q&A function on Zoom to transmit your question, and so that we can ask them to our panelists. So first, let me introduce you to Beth Scher, who is the Associate Director of the Office of a Small Business Program from the U.S. Army Futures Command. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Sylvain.
And the second presenter is, or second panelist, should I say, is Tim Crane. He's Director Corporate Ventures from the Army Applications Lab. Good morning, Tim.
Morning, Sylvain.
So first, what we're going to do, we'll let our two panelists introduce themselves and explain a little bit what is the role of their respective organization. So maybe, Beth, you can start so I can leave the floor to you for a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Sylvain. Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Scher, and I'm the Small Business Director for Army Futures Command, and I'm honored to be with you all today. I hope you all had an opportunity to watch the short video that was sent out, I believe, yesterday. If not, we will ensure that you get that link, as that video will provide a greater context and insight into the command. But for those who haven't seen it yet, a little background. AFC was stood up in 2018 and is headquartered in Austin, Texas, in the University of Texas Systems Building. We are unique in that we are the only Army major command that's headquartered outside a military base, and that was done deliberately to assist in developing the partnerships we will need to fulfill our obligations to the Army and to the nation. At AFC, the mission is to lead Army's modernization efforts, and we do this by focusing not on what is, but what could be, as we develop and then deliver capabilities for our soldiers to win in future wars. Our ability to develop those capabilities is dependent upon building and enhancing collaborative relationships with entrepreneurs, innovation, and our industry partners like yourselves. AFC seeks to give our future soldiers an edge on the battlefield of tomorrow, and everyone at the command, from General Murray and the senior leaders at headquarters down to the soldiers at the tactical level, they're all strongly committed to working with small businesses to develop innovative solutions that make our soldiers more lethal to win those wars. The AFC enterprise consists of several organizations, including the 8 cross-functional teams that support the Army modernization priorities, the Army Applications Lab, or AAL, which Tim will discuss further momentarily, the Future Concept Center, where they produce the assessments and future warfighting concepts, the Combat Capabilities and Development Command, which is now known as DevCom, leads in R&D, and the Army Medical Research and Development Command, or MRDC, all fall under AFC. And these are all organizations that provide opportunities for innovation. We are also supported by the Research and Analysis Center and the Army Test and Evaluation Command to provide us the analysis needed to make decisions on our greatest challenges and to ensure independent development of operational testing of those capabilities. So my role in all this is to kind of be that bridge, the connection between our industry partners and the capabilities and these different organizations. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim Crane, who will provide a brief introduction on the role of Army Applications Lab. Tim?
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Caroline and Sylvain. Thank you for having us this morning. It's great to meet everybody. Hopefully we have an opportunity to talk in the future. As Beth mentioned, AFC was stood up in 2018. About a year later, the Army Applications Lab opened its doors. So March of 2019, we opened our doors. We had the explicit task of trying to make it easier for non-traditional businesses to do or conduct business with the Army. We've gone about this in a kind of a different way, perhaps, than some of our other DoD office, innovation offices have done this, meaning we're a little bit less transactional, but the reason why we're a little bit less transactional is because we focus on a problem. And there's a considerable amount of work that occurs prior to approaching industry with a problem, as opposed to a requirements document, meaning we have to have Army stakeholders, the leadership, doctrine writers, the end users, all the training that to teach the end users how to use these systems. All of that has to be aligned prior to turning to industry and saying, hey, listen, we have a problem. We're currently here. We need to get to here. How do we bridge that gap? So my job in all of this is to talk to startups, talk to universities, talk to folks that are have a technology. Some of them don't even have a registered business yet, all the way up to, senior executives of Fortune 100 companies. And they all get the same 30 minutes. They all get the same sort of access to, to our calendar, access to, our network, if you will. And we're just trying to level the playing field, right? Like as Beth mentioned about the Army modernization priorities, we are a supporting effort. We're a very small office in a very big organization. And our value proposition, if you will, is that we just try to connect folks together, right? So with that, I'll hand it back over to Sylvain.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. Thank you for this nice overview. So basically, there's three themes I would like to propose that maybe we can explore this morning with both of you. The first one is concerning the accessibility for Canadian companies. So basically, that's probably a burning question for most of the participants that we have today. So maybe I can start here with possibly Beth. If I can ask this first question, are your programs really accessible to Canadian companies and also to Canadian academic organizations?
Absolutely. With a focus on modernization, Army Futures Command is especially in need of companies that bring innovative, cost-effective solutions and approaches to the table. It doesn't matter whether they are U.S.-based or from one of our allies. Our procurement process requires that we set the conditions for maximum small business participation, and that's what I seek to do. The large U.S. defense prime contractors, they're good at a lot of things, but often the government's requirement for innovation, speed, responsiveness, or cost avoidance are best provided by our small business and innovative companies. AFC also recognizes that partnership is the key and embraces a partnership process that brings together public innovation with our organic research and development capabilities. We can't do any of that on our own, so every fielding, demonstration, experiment, new initiative takes on this collaborative participation from of our Army, our industry, small business, academic institutions, and the innovative spirit that they bring to the table. So the fact that the location of that company isn't what's critical. It's their willingness to partner and team to get to that desired end state. And those are the critical factors, not So absolutely, Sylvain, these programs and opportunities are most certainly accessible to our Canadian counterparts.
Thank you very much for that, Beth. Maybe another question then, if these programs or opportunities are accessible to Canadian companies, what type of credentials are required from these companies to position themselves in these opportunities?
Well, first and foremost, all businesses looking to do business with our organization or any DoD organization, regardless of their size, status, or location, must be actively registered with the System for Award Management, or SAM.gov. Organizations must have a SAM account to compete for federal contracts. The government uses the system to store the information about the business, including certification, so it's important to keep that SAM profile updated, and the registration for that is free. Another big certification that's recently implemented and causing some angst is the DoD Cybersecurity Model Certification. You'll hear it referred to as CMMC. DoD is rolling out the requirements gradually for this with full implementation not expected until 2026. But in a nutshell, CMMC is a certification system that all DoD prime and subcontractors must comply with to be eligible to compete for and perform on future DoD contracts. Under the new CMC requirements, an accreditation body tapped by the Department of Defense will train these third-party assessors. In the spring of 2020 was a kickoff. I think a couple have gotten started, but haven't heard a lot about it since we've gotten to COVID, so may be slightly delayed. That would be a shock, right? But anyway, these third-party assessors will then train the defense contractors under the CMMC. The CMMC certification will have 5 levels, ascending levels of sophistication, with that level 1 and 2 being the non-sensitive type work, the food services or housekeeping, grass cutting, those types of things. Level 3 would be for those contracts that are handling controlled or unclassified information, the CUI. It's referred to. CUI is the acronym for it. This is likely the level that most contracts will require. But then there's also level 4 and 5, which is a lot more extensive and involved, and this is for contracts that have classified information. And again, there's a lot of angst about this requirement, but as I understand it, the good news is if contractors are currently compliant with DoD's current cybersecurity requirements, then they'll be well positioned to achieve CMMC level 3 certification. So another certification is ITAR, which is the acronym for the International Traffic in Arms Regulation. ITAR is the control for the export and import of defense-related articles and services. And the U.S. government mandates that any company that manufactures, exports, or is involved with related technical data must be ITAR compliant. Even if you don't sell to the DoD, but you do sell to a company that does, you most likely will need to be ITAR compliant. One of the keys to ITAR compliance is a strong, secure methodology for storing and transferring data related to defense technology. Some of the other additional requirements to becoming procurement ready, they include things like looking up and knowing your North American industry classification or your NAICS code. You must have that 6-digit code to compete for federal contracts. Additionally, you'll want to determine whether your business is eligible for any special labels, set-asides, or programs. SBA can help you make those determinations and is your resource for that. If so, if you are eligible, you can compete for additional contracts that are set aside by the government for small and or disadvantaged businesses. You may also receive preferential treatment when competing for those contracts, depending on the specific set-asides that you qualify for. Another requirement to compete for federal contracts, not a certification, but it is a requirement, is the DUNS code, Data Universal Numbering System. Now, this government code is used to track companies' credit record and is managed by Dun & Bradstreet, which is a private company. Registration is free, but it should be noted that the government will stop using the DUNS number to uniquely identify entity, and we'll begin using this unique identity entities, UIE, uniquely identify entities, I'm sorry, and that will be done through sam.gov. That transition was supposed to take place next month in December 2020. Again, another transition date that has been pushed to April of 2022. So while nothing is further required other than having the DUNS at this point, this transition is something you'll want to keep an eye out and follow for updates. Lastly, depending on the contract, businesses may also need to pursue security clearances or obtain a DD 2345 for access to limited distribution drawings, technical data packages, and in some cases, statements of work. There are a number of resources available to assist small businesses with these items, so if assistance is needed, I strongly encourage you to reach out to the Small Business Administration Procurement Technical Assistance Center, the Small Business Development Technical Centers, or an agency small business office such as mine for assistance.
Thank you very much, Beth. Now I turn it over to Tim. Tim, do you think you would be able to share with us a few success stories of companies, small businesses that were involved in with your organizations?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, first and foremost, I think just to kind of emphasize one of Beth's points, the partnering and the willingness to partner requires some work, and it requires building a relationship and having conversations, and both from our side and from the side of the company. And that doesn't matter if you're a US based company or a Canadian company or elsewhere. Every technology has its own unique pathway to acquisition, whatever that ends up being defined as, if it is, something that's in your future. I would say, just as a historical note, I guess the first company that I had the fortunate circumstance to assist with this type of effort was back in 2004. And the only reason why I bring it up is because it was a learning experience for myself, and it really kind of showcased the different requirements as Beth laid out. Like, it really was just helping folks figure out what the next step was, right? And maintaining connections. So a company was out of Great Britain. It wasn't a Canadian company. It was out of Great Britain. They were making a munition at the time that it was the only munition in the world. Again, but this is 16 years ago. But it was the only munition in the world that allowed it was a simulations munition that was available to use in training. And it was essentially a chalk dart that was loaded into a 5.56 round, so you could use it in your actual weapon system. You did not have to exchange your optical solution because it loaded directly into a regular magazine, and it used the regular weapon system. At the time, every other system required you to buy a barrel and switch everything out, which made it so that everybody had to switch out their optical solutions. So this was a considerable cost savings, because all you were buying was a new magazine and the rounds themselves. Before, you were buying almost an entirely new, you had to buy an entire upper receiver, a new upper receiver. And I apologize, first of all, I am a Green Beret, so I might be diving into like weapon systems. That's kind of my go-to. But, again, the interesting point about this was it was a technology that was the only one in the world that we could find at the time. It was a definite need that we had put out, and there were no U.S. companies that could do that. And we had to, it didn't take a whole lot of time, probably I'd say 8 months to get them like on contract and the equipment in our hands. But I would say that was sort of a best case scenario. I mean, that was from nothing, UK based only company all the way down. But again, these sorts of relationships, they require a discussion. Every company is going to be different. Every company is going to have its own unique needs. And quite honestly, every stakeholder in the Army is going to have its unique needs as well, right? So while the things that Beth laid out are universal, right, and that's what you need to conduct business on a basic level, moving forward past that requires a relationship, and that's what we're all here for. Is that helpful?
Yeah, perfect. Tim, thank you very much for that. Now let's switch to another team. Let's go into a little bit more the specifics of priority technological sectors that you're looking for and upcoming opportunities. I would turn it over to Beth again to talk about that. Could you expand on topics, please?
Sure, thank you. So AFC has 4 core mission areas. The first, AFC assesses the future operating environment and develops future warfighting concepts. Secondly, AFC uses the assessments and concepts to develop requirements and conduct research and development on those future capabilities. Third, AFC designs new organizational constructs, new structures our units will employ, and future concepts and capabilities. Finally, we support the larger Army in delivery of modernization solutions to our soldiers. So in support of these mission areas, artificial intelligence, robotics, and autonomy are the focal point for these mission areas and are critical to how Army will operate in the future. Much of what AFC is focused on will rely heavily on these 3 aspects of technology and future warfare. But other AFC technology priorities are in the areas of disruptive energetics, radio frequency, electronic materials, quantum technologies, hypersonics, synthetic biologies, material by design, and additive manufacturing. I believe there's a section in that video that I referred to earlier that talks more about these technology sectors and focus. So again, if you haven't seen that video, I strongly suggest that you take a look at that and see how those focus areas are being sought and used across AFC.
Excellent. Now, you know, in Canada, we have this process where innovation is often on the basis of call for proposals or things like that. Are there any upcoming call for proposals or upcoming, let's say, short-term opportunities that you recommend we keep an eye on related to the organizations?
Well, so as Tim said, we are more problem focused than we are requirement generated. But those other organizations that I referred to, especially DevCom, MRDC, they have opportunities, typical requirements and requests for proposal type of actions that you're referring to. And I would strongly suggest staying abreast of those opportunities by using the SAM.gov as on the search. There's a contract opportunities search tool on there, which will allow you to search and sign up for notifications. So that would be on your traditional proposals. You know, at the headquarters level, more of the opportunities come from things like BAAs, OTAs, prize competitions, and R&D opportunities at the ARL open campuses. And to become aware and familiar with those, we recommend that you go to the ArmyFuturesCommand.com homepage. There's a button on there labeled Collaborate with Us. It's what we call our front door. It'll take you to a landing page that describes and lays out at a very high level at this point, because the system and process just got launched 1 October. So we're still in the development and modernization and innovative approaches to this process as well. But it will give you an idea of the organizations out there. Over time, it will include more of these opportunities and the problems that Tim referred to just a couple moments ago. But in the interim, by registering with us, you'll be able to be notified and stay abreast of as opportunities as they're announced. There is another big ongoing potential opportunity at AFC right now, and that's Project Convergence. And this is a huge initiative for the command and for the Army. Project Convergence represents a shift from within our modernization enterprise and getting beyond the lockstep approach we've taken to developing new capabilities over the decades, and takes the technology out of the labs to test it in the dirt, you know, to really get those the hands-on and the user experiences, as well as the input from all members across the team. And this is important because we know we can't afford to spend years in the lab and doing industry engineering as we did in the past. To get to the cutting edge technology, and to get that technology into our service members' hands quickly, we need to change the game. We need to change how we do things. So Project Convergence is doing just that. Earlier for this fall, for example, about 500 of our soldiers, civil servants, scientists, and engineers came together under COVID mitigation protocols, mind you, to change the game. They tested, connected, integrated a host of capabilities on the ground with soldiers, and did so far earlier with tech maturity processes. Over about a month time period, they were able to connect space-based sensors, geographically dispersed command and control nodes, and shooters from the air and the ground. All this was to identify and engage targets at machine speed. I was normally a 10 to 12 minute process on a good day, and it took the team less than 30 seconds. So this was a monumental success, but there's still a lot of work to do. And the real heart of Project Convergence is the iterative approach we're taking. The demonstration that was just done at UMA was only the first step in a deliberate campaign of learning. And as we move forward, we must continue to build on what was learned this year. As the future battlefield requires us to leverage all those sensors, regardless of service or agency, and look at that joint capability. We are experimenting with capabilities far earlier in the process, which means bringing industry partners in far earlier in order to put them through realistic operational testing to get them matured faster and more effectively. The next project convergence industry engagement will be on December 1st of this year, just a couple weeks. If you're interested in participating, I would suggest you hurry over to that AFC homepage, armyfuturescommand.com, to register. Now, if you put armyfuturescommand.com in Google, it might take you to an armyfuturescommand@army.mil. That's the wrong site. So use armyfuturescommand.com, and in the top right corner, in addition to that, collaborate with us where you can register for the small business office opportunities and awareness. As well as seek opportunities to have a capability brief with our stakeholders. You'll also see the link that says register now for Project Convergence 21. That registration right now is set to close tomorrow. I don't know. And this opportunity was announced on Beta SAM. So again, if you had set up your search and were following Beta SAM, you would know about it already. But if you hadn't or you missed it, it is still open, set to close tomorrow. I'm not convinced it's actually going to be shut down. So there may be an opportunity, but don't fall on that. If you're interested in hearing more about Project Convergence and where those opportunities potentially fall in the future, I strongly suggest you go over there and register.
Thank you, Beth. Let's switch to our third theme is how do company make it happen? So basically, Tim, if I could ask you to explain a little bit what's the process and the roadmap for a company to become a partner or a supplier with Army Application Lab. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Thank you. So the Army Applications Lab is a little bit different perhaps than other organizations within the Army in terms of like the technology readiness levels that we're looking for and sort of our developmental timelines, given that our horizons are considerably longer than a normal acquisition activity. So the easiest way to do it is, like Beth said, go to the website, click on how to collaborate and register through the headquarters website. As a supporting effort, we're here to ensure that companies are speaking with appropriate organizations, right? Like I think at the end of the day, I would much rather a company speak with somebody who's technically competent in their technology area than spend 30 minutes with me just having a discussion, right? So if we could skip my office altogether and put you in touch with somebody who is directly aligned and has a vested interest in your technology, that's considerably better for the company and better for the Army altogether. So going through Beth's website is the best way. Obviously, like we put up on in the chat window, I see it over here. If you do want to have a conversation with us, it's really easy to get on our calendar. I will leave that link open, and it's really easy to just to find a time that's appropriate for you or convenient for you, and you can jump on the phone with myself or a member of my team, and we can answer questions that may have come about from this discussion. Or dive further into who you should be speaking with within the U.S. government, or answer any other specific questions to what we're doing. I would say that SAMS.gov, as Beth said, is sort of the gold standard for stuff, meaning that I see a couple of questions, and this was sort of the overarching question coming into today was, all right, so we're not eligible for SBIR. For those of you that don't know, Small Business Innovative Research Grants, 51% US owned companies are eligible for these types or to apply for these types of grant programs. It seems to be a pretty widely used vehicle for funding for innovative efforts, especially within the DoD. It's a little bit restrictive. To be honest, it's a little bit restrictive, but there are other opportunities that are out there, and that this is why I think that having a conversation with us is probably the best place to start, right? And it's because it's not just us. So, for example, I would say, was it between May and July, I spoke with 1,028 companies, and 79.25% of them, we ran the number, 79.25% of them had nothing to do with the Army Applications Lab, right? So this is why we're trying to help Beth out as much as we can with making sure that the companies are getting in front of the right folks. So as a default, if that means giving our office a call, that's great. Have a conversation with us. We'll help you out. But by and large, we're tied in with the Navy, the Air Force. We have weekly meetings with their innovation offices. If you're, even if you think that, hey, I have something that's working with a flight line, like we spoke with a gentleman yesterday, fantastic technology. Yes, it has applications in the Army, perhaps, but of course, if they hadn't already been speaking with the U.S. Air Force, we would have passed them over directly to the U.S. Air Force, because that would have been an absolute, application for their technology. So, give us a call. This is the easiest way to kind of start, right? Like, get on our calendar, have a conversation, and then we'll figure out what the next steps are from there. I would say at this point, we've gotten pretty adept at, really just getting down to business, and trying to figure out like what the next direction is, in order to advise a company appropriately. Does that answer the question? Candidate supplier, yeah.
Yes, I think it's pretty good. So I have another question here that I would like to ask. Basically, the IP is always very important for companies, especially small businesses. Could you tell us a little bit how the IP is handled when there is a business relationship that's put in place with the Army Applications Lab?
Sure. No, thank you for that question. That question always comes up. I would say, again, it's company by company. Some companies come to us and say, hey, we're here to like sell you our IP. That's all we want. And then other companies want as much IP protection as possible. That's a discussion as well, right? I would say, if you were to take a look at what has been described to me as the gold standard for IP protection when you're doing business with the DoD is through the SBIR program. So as Beth mentioned, the Small Business Administration, the SBA website, you can actually go in there and check out the Small Business Innovative Research Grant Program, and it'll dive into what the IP protection is that they provide if you're awarded this SBIR grant. And the way that it's been described to me, at least, was that there's no better IP protection than through the SBIR grant program today. So if you wanted to see how to model a proposal, like I would, take your cues from there. Again, I can't sit here and tell you what to do, but a good place to start would be the SBIR grant program as far as a template was concerned. Okay. But we don't, our interests are to ensure that small businesses are taken care of appropriately, and that their wishes are handled appropriately within the construct that we're allowed to. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's basically on a case.
Yes, it all is. Yep. Which is why we need to start with a conversation a lot of times.
Okay. Excellent. And another question that I have is concerning the adoption of these technologies to the end user. We've heard about the situation of Valley of Death in the past. A lot of the technology don't really make it the end user. What's your approach to make sure that all these technologies they get the best chances possible to get into the hands of the users?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So going back to, how Beth and I have both mentioned that we're problem focused. There are other innovative efforts which by and large, fill a gap and fill a need. And their method of conducting business, if you will, is to go out and award a large number of pretty relatively small in terms of funding opportunities to folks. And, so they'll send out, 100 contracts for $111,500, right? And a lot of it seems a little bit like a fishing trip sometimes. Essentially show us your good technology, we'll, fund it for a short period of time. But the onus for transition to the next step, if you will, is on the company, right? And what that entails is finding a stakeholder within the organization that not only has a particular need for your technology, but understands how your technology can help them, right? And it's all within a specific time frame. So it's a very difficult obstacle to overcome for most companies, especially for non-traditionals that may or may not have experience in the military, right? So what we've done is we've taken that model and done it backwards. So like I mentioned before, we do all the homework up front. And this is like the real value of what we're doing, right? Like what we do is we have the decision makers, we have the doctrine writers, we have the operational units. We get them all aligned up front. So when we turn to industry and say, hey, we have a problem, can you please help us work through this? Then we open up a solicitation, then we down select to about 10 companies, and we have these 10 companies come in and run just kind of an industry standard cohort model for about 12 weeks. But that cohort for 12 weeks is under the direct supervision of these Army decision makers. So you have the decision makers all the way from, the folks who are going to, maintain and sustain the equipment, the integrators into the larger system, if there is a larger system, plus the operational units. So they get hands-on opportunities with the soldiers, all the while, under the supervision of the actual folks who will be bringing that technology into the Army. So that's the way that we've sort of focused it. Again, a considerably less transactional model than some of the other models that are out there, but we feel that there's a higher probability for transitioning that technology into the hands of the soldier.
Okay, thank you.
So Beth, can I just add to that real quick?
Oh, for sure, Beth. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, so that front door, that collaborate with us, that process is intended to get our industry partners to the left of that process, right? To get in there so they can find out and to help bridge them to that valley of death. Our office is looking to systematically connect those industries and their capabilities with those stakeholders. So by going into the front door, we're looking to do more than just have that, collect your information, collect your business card stuff, and then have a conversation and we have no idea where you go or what you do. We're collecting the information about you, about the opportunities, keeping you in the loop about future opportunities, so we can move you along what I call the opportunities progression curve. So we get beyond that stage 1 where we have the handshake, nice to meet you, that sounds really cool, all the way up to stage 5 where we're actually transitioning this capability to a war fighter, which is that valley of death. So the things that Tim talked about there are the middle and are the core of it. But it all starts with getting registered. Well, it's not the only way, at least not right now, but it's the way we're looking to bring industry in and to align them with not just what the opportunities are, but with those stakeholders, so that as they get to those middle grounds, they already have that stakeholder buy-in, right? They're not trying to find it and create it after they're already in flight. So we're trying to build this model, this process, and again, it's it's like everything else at Army Futures Command. It's brand new. It's not perfect. The system, is still, on a little weak, but I'm getting there. And I do appreciate the support and the feedback from industry to know, hey, why aren't you asking me this? Or why am I doing that? Because then as we build the system, we can make it more robust and more valuable. But, this process of getting them logged in, capturing who they are, what they do in a systematic way, having that data available, and then grouping the solutions and the problems together and moving them along this curve together as a team and as a cohort, I believe potentially could eliminate all that, because we're not getting to those stage 3 and 4 saying, okay, we've got this well-defined requirement. Now we're trying to get somebody to buy in. We've brought the whole team along all the way, right? So whether that, so I see in the chat, there's a lot of reference in that to SBIRs being US based. And yeah, sadly, that's the way it works right now. But that's not the only opportunity. It's not the only way to get in. There's prize competitions and then the BAAs, et cetera. But the other thing to look at, as a Canadian company, would be to look at subcontracting opportunities or teaming or joint ventures with U.S. companies as well, to kind of be able to support some of those efforts. So I hope that provides some clarity. But as Tim said, each case is unique and different, and the only way to really get to the specifics of your situation is to have that conversation and start the dialogue with us. And to do that, you go into that website and register.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for all these great and very useful information. So let's switch to the Q&A section of our roundtable. Here, you have talked maybe a little bit about that, Beth, in your previous comment. I have a question here from Luc Boucher from Ocean Software, who wants to understand basically what is exactly the requirement in terms to have a US-based business entity to contract with the DoD. How does that apply specifically to your area?
Yeah, so as I said, and as you state, you're 100% right. The SBIR, to be eligible for a SBIR award, you have to be 51% U.S. based. So for a non-51%, then the SBIR won't be an option for you. But as I also said, there are other opportunities, other avenues that you can pursue. So reaching out, registering with us, getting, because those cohort type initiatives and all that Tim talked about, that we are building from the ground up, those aren't SBIR based. And I'm pretty sure that there have been some non-US companies in those cohorts today. Tim, is that correct?
So right now, they are SBIR funded until next October.
They are all SBIR funded.
Yeah, but just I mean, like the acquisition core, by and large, does not use SBIR, right? So if you're commercially available technology, like I said, give us a call. If it's something you think that the U.S. Army could use, give us a call and we'll have a discussion. I mean, the acquisition core is pretty large. If it doesn't need a developmental effort, and honestly, there are other efforts that are not SBIR based as well. Like Beth said, like there are other, X-Tech Search is one of them. Naval X is another. The list goes on, and we can help with that as well. So it's not just the Army. And like, just as a quick, it doesn't really matter, but the Canadian Commercial Corp out of Ottawa, Canada, was awarded a $380 million award, I believe in June of this year. So, I mean, firm fixed price, a real contract with the DoD, fully Canadian company. So it does exist, right? There are ways.
Yeah, and the SBIR is also, that's the way we've always done business, right? I mean, that's just a pot of money that's available to us now. The way the budget process works is one of the reasons that the Army and the DoD is in the predicament that we're in. We don't move at the speed of sound or the speed of innovation. And that's something that we're working to fix, but it's not going to get fixed as quickly as we stood up the Army Futures Command or as quickly as we're moving out. So right now, we are fundamentally using CBER because that's where the money is. The POM process is 5 years out, so it's going to take some time. But there are also other initiatives such as other transaction authority, OTAs, so either, looking for those or joining a consortium provides you opportunities as well. That's also a very, very common and becoming more and more popular, exponentially increased use every year in the OTAs. So that's also a very popular tool in the contracting or the acquisition toolbox that allows for Canadian companies to participate. So as Tim said, you do just need to kind of reach out, be patient, and again by getting coming into the front door, aligning with the stakeholder, getting with AAL or one of the other subordinate organizations and sharing your capability. Once they see what the solution is, that helps them go forward for the budgeting process, right? That helps them figure out, hey, we've got a solution, we've got a problem, we've got a solution, and we know it's going to be about this. This isn't just a pipe dream or a wish or a want, or we think we're going to pick a number from the air and we got a goal here. We hope this is right. We've got some real data. So by capturing all this stuff and working together collaboratively as a cohort and amongst the command and all components thereof, we really feel that there's going to be great opportunities to move the needle as far as not just funding, but to take it from concept to actually field it, to turn it over to the hands of, put it in the hands of our soldiers. So it is going to take some time, and it is going to require a paradigm shift, not just from the way we do things internally at AFC, but just the way DoD funds and acquires goods and services. So, but they are aware of it and we're working it, but it is going to take a little while.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Now I have another question from the participants. I think one of them is scheduled to have a 30-minute meeting with Tim with the Army Applications Lab. That person wants to know how should he get prepared for this meeting? Is there any documentation he should send in advance or any preparation you would recommend?
No, and that's a great question. So I would say that, by and large, just show up and be ready just to have an easy conversation with us. It's very straightforward, high level. We try not to get too technical. We will discuss like technical, technology verticals, maybe, like, how it can be applied to a soldier or helping a soldier or helping the Army is probably the biggest thing. But at the end of the day, we've had conversations with everybody at this point. 2 kids out of a university with some great tech, and then the next half hour I'm speaking to 25 executives out of a Fortune 50 company. So and it's again, same conversation, same smiling faces. It's pretty straightforward. All we'll talk about is, what technology you're working on and where we think it could be a fit in the Army, and we'll try to connect the dots for you, right? Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Maybe we have time for one last question I have here. Ethan wants to know what's the relationship or synergy with the DoD FCT program. That program I don't know, so any of you would like to comment on that?
I don't have any knowledge. I'm sorry. I could look at it. Tim, are you familiar?
Yeah, no, not directly. Is that under CTTSO by any chance? I don't know if that was Foreign Competitive Testing Program. I mean, we've dealt with a couple of these, DoD organizations before. Not for the last couple of years, so that might be a new entity. If not, I'm just not directly familiar with it. Suffice it to say, again, these are very easy conversations to have, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, FCT, Foreign Competitive Testing Program. That's what was mentioned.
Yeah, just not familiar with that one,
Okay.
unless it's a CTTSO.
Okay. So I think we have used, I think quite efficiently the time that was available to all of us. So it's time to conclude this this roundtable. First, I would like to thank you, Beth and Tim, for accepting to share with us your expertise. So thank you very much. I think this is going to be very helpful for a lot of Canadian companies. Thank you also to the all the participants that that joined in and willing to explore these great opportunities. I just want to remind everyone, all the participants, that contact information will be provided by Audrey after the conclusion of this roundtable. And also a recording, because especially like the initial part, Beth, where you talked about the credentials that were required, I think that's very important. So this session has been recorded and will be made available. So if people want to listen again to all these technical details that you provided, so that's going to be available. So it's time to wrap it up. So thank you very much, everyone. It was very nice to have this conversation with you, and we certainly hope to have the opportunity to do it in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.